About a year ago, my mom died unexpectedly, and I had to go back to my hometown in upstate New York to deal with her house. I'm 32 now, and before that, I hadn't lived there since I was 18. I moved to Boston right after high school, then eventually to Hartford for work. My relationship with my mom was never exactly close. So when people asked me if going back was emotional, the honest answer is that it was more uncomfortable than sad. It felt like going back to a place I had spent years trying to erase. The house was on a dead-end road outside a town called Coldwater. Small place. A few thousand people, one main street, a diner, a pharmacy, a gas station, and the kind of local gossip that somehow survives generations. The house looked basically unchanged. Same white siding, same sagging porch, same oak tree out front. Inside, it smelled like dust and old wood, and the faint trace of my mum's perfume. I told myself I'd stay there a week at most, sort through her papers, call the realtor, decide what to keep, then leave. The first couple days were normal enough. I kept busy. I boxed up dishes, went through bills, called utility companies. At night I slept on the couch downstairs because I didn't want to sleep upstairs. My old bedroom was still there, but being back in that hallway gave me this weird tight feeling in my chest I couldn't explain. The first strange thing happened on the fourth night. I was in the downstairs bathroom brushing my teeth when I heard footsteps on the second floor. Not creaking, not settling. Actual footsteps. Slow and deliberate, moving across the hallway from one room to the next. I stopped brushing and listened. They stopped too. I remember staring at myself in the mirror with toothpaste foam in my mouth, just waiting to hear them again. Nothing. I went upstairs and checked every room. My mom's bedroom was empty. My old room was empty. Guest room empty. Attic door still closed. I felt stupid for even checking, but I also knew what I heard. I went back downstairs and told myself it was an old house doing old house things. That same night, I woke up around 2 o'clock in the morning. Not because of a sound.
Listen closely.
Just suddenly awake.
I want to tell you a secret.
The living room was dark except for the microwave clock glowing from the kitchen. I sat up on the couch and looked towards the stairs. There was a mirror mounted on the hallway wall halfway up the staircase.
Always ordered 2 coffees.
It had been there since I was a kid. Oval-shaped dark wood frame. One of those old mirrors that always made the house look dimmer somehow. What woke me up, I think, was that something looked wrong with it. At first I couldn't tell what. Then I realized the reflection wasn't matching the hallway. The hallway itself was empty, but in the mirror, there was someone standing at the top of the stairs. A girl. She was facing away from me, just standing there like she was waiting for somebody to come up. I froze. I remember staring so hard my eyes started watering. Then I noticed what she was wearing. A grey sweatshirt with faded blue lettering on the front. My sweatshirt. One I used to wear in high school all the time. I had this cold rush go through my whole body. I stood up slowly and stepped toward the stairs. The actual hallway was still empty, but in the mirror, the girl was there. Then she moved. Very slowly, she turned her head over her shoulder. I honestly can't explain how disturbing it was, because at first it looked like me. Same hair length I had at 17, same build. But the face was wrong somehow. Thinner, paler, eyes too dark, and she was smiling. Then the lamp next to the couch flickered, just once. When it came back steady, the mirror reflected the empty hallway again. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning I went up to the attic because I suddenly remembered something. That sweatshirt should have been packed away in an old plastic storage bin. It was still folded inside the bin. That should have been enough for me to leave right then. But for whatever reason, I didn't. I think I was angry more than scared. Or maybe I was just tired of feeling like that house still had some kind of hold on me after all those years. Later that day, I went to a diner downtown for lunch. The waitress was a woman named Carol, who recognized me right away. "You're Evelyn Boone's daughter, right?" she asked. I said yeah. She told me she was sorry about my mom, then added something I still think about. "She used to come in here alone," Carol said, "but she'd always ask for 2 coffees. I kind of laughed and asked if she was forgetting things toward the end. Carol looked uncomfortable. "Maybe," she said. But once I asked who the second coffee was for, and she said, "The girl from the hall," I just stared at her. Then I smiled like it was some eccentric old lady thing, paid my bill, and left. That night, I heard the footsteps again. This time, it started upstairs around 1:30. Then the steps came to the top of the staircase, then down, one at a time. Slow, measured. I was sitting on the couch with all the lights on by then, pretending to watch TV. The steps stopped right outside the living room. The doorway was empty. But when I looked toward the staircase mirror, the girl was standing there again. Only this time she wasn't at the top of the stairs. She was right behind me. I spun around so fast I knocked over the lamp. No one was there.
Please hurry.
By the time I looked back at the mirror, she was gone. The next day I decided I was done being passive about it. I went upstairs with a hammer from the garage. My plan was simple. Take the mirror down, throw it out, and be done with it. I stood in front of it for maybe 10 seconds before I just swung. The first hit cracked the glass down the middle. Second hit shattered half of it. On the third hit, the mirror broke apart enough that pieces fell inward, into the wall. That's when I realized something was wrong. There was a hollow space behind it, way deeper than the wall should have been. And something was inside. At first I thought it was insulation or old fabric. Then I saw hair. I took one step back and nearly dropped the hammer. There was a body inside the wall, curled up in that narrow hollow space. Small, female, old enough to have been there for years, and rotted into the framing. I called 911 from the kitchen floor because I couldn't get my legs to stop shaking. While I was waiting for police, I heard something upstairs move. Not in the wall, in the hall. I looked up from the base of the stairs, and the girl was standing there in plain sight. No mirror this time. Same grey sweatshirt, same dark smile. She pointed toward the body in the wall.
Well, I thought
Then
I saw
she said,
something,
very
but
quietly,
I'm not sure.
she knew. And then she was gone. Police later identified the body as a missing girl from the next county over who vanished almost 18 years earlier during a snowstorm. The last person known to have seen her alive was my mother. Apparently she told police at the time that she'd given the girl a ride and dropped her off near a bus stop. No one had ever been able to disprove it. The sheriff who handled the scene knew my mom. He didn't say much, but you could tell by his face he already suspected the truth. I sold the house to a demolition company 2 months later. I don't know exactly what my mother did or why.
So was I.
I've stopped trying to understand that part. But the thing that still bothers me is this. 3 weeks after the house was torn down, I woke up in my apartment in Hartford around 2 a.m. My bedroom mirror was across from the bed. And for just a second, I saw that girl walking past the doorway behind me. Not smiling anymore, just leaving. like the only thing she ever wanted was to be found. Story 2. I kept seeing the same woman on the highway. This happened to me in Kansas about 8 years ago. And even now I still don't drive long distance alone at night if I can avoid it. At the time, I was 29 and living in Denver. I worked in commercial roofing sales, which meant a lot of driving across states I had absolutely no interest in seeing. One week, I had to get to Missouri for a client meeting, and instead of flying, I decided to drive because I was trying to save money. That decision is still probably the dumbest one I've ever made. I left Denver around noon and figured I could make it halfway before stopping. But like always, I kept pushing farther than I should have. Coffee, energy drinks, loud music, windows cracked open. That whole stupid macho mindset of convincing yourself you're fine when you're clearly exhausted.
All right,
By the time I got into western Kansas, it was after midnight. If you've never driven that stretch of interstate in the middle of the night, it's hard to explain how empty it feels. No trees, no real landmarks, just black sky, flat land, and highway. At one point, I remember thinking it felt like driving through the background of a dream. A little after 12:30, I saw a woman standing on the shoulder of the road. She was wearing a white dress, barefoot, with one hand raised like she wanted me to stop. No car nearby, no flashing hazards, nothing. I slowed a little, but I didn't stop. Not because I'm proud of that. I just didn't. I think part of me assumed it was some kind of trap. Or maybe just that selfish instinct people get where they don't want trouble. I passed her, checked my mirror, and kept going. About 15 minutes later, I saw her again. Same woman, same white dress, same bare feet, same hand raised. This time I know for a fact there was no exit between where I first saw her and where I saw her again. That's when I really started freaking out. I checked the GPS, checked the mile markers, even looked for service roads. Nothing made sense. I told myself it wasn't the same woman. Then I passed her, and she turned her head toward me. I knew her face. Not personally, but I knew it. And the second I recognized it, my whole body went cold. 9 years earlier, when I was in college in Missouri, I was involved in a hit and run. There's no easy way to say that. I was drunk. Not blackout drunk, but drunk enough that I shouldn't have been driving. My roommate was in the passenger seat, and we were coming back from a party on a rainy road outside Columbia when someone stepped into the road in front of us. We hit her. We actually stopped for about 5 seconds. Then my roommate started yelling that we'd been drinking, that we'd go to prison, that we had to go. And I listened. That's the part I still can't forgive. Not that I was drunk, not even that I hit her, that I left. The case was never solved. I transferred schools the next year and did what a lot of cowards do. I built a life around never thinking about it too directly. So when I saw that face on the side of the highway in Kansas, I knew exactly why. I pulled into a rest stop maybe 10 minutes later because I was shaking too hard to drive. There was almost nobody there. Just one pickup truck and a vending machine area under fluorescent lights. I sat in my car trying to calm down, and then my phone buzzed. No caller ID, no number, just a voicemail notification. I played it. For the first few seconds, all I heard was wind. Then a woman's voice said, "Why didn't you stop?" I threw the phone into the passenger seat like it burned me. I started the car immediately and got back on the highway. At that point, I wasn't even trying to make good decisions. I just wanted to be somewhere with people. Any town, any gas station,
Yes, thank you.
anywhere that wasn't that road. Eventually, I saw an exit sign for fuel and took it. There was a little gas station off the exit. One of those old places that looks like it's been there since the 70s. Half the lights were off. Attached diner looked closed. One old guy behind the counter reading a paperback. I walked in probably looking insane, because the first thing he said was, "You see somebody out there?" I just stared at him. He nodded like that was answer enough. "Woman in white?" he asked. I said, "What the hell is this?" He closed the book and looked at me for a long second. "People see her sometimes," he said. "Usually men. Usually ones who got a reason." Those exact words. I asked him what that meant. He said, "Usually ones who left someone behind." My mouth went completely dry. Then all the lights in the store went out. Everything. The humming coolers, the overheads, the neon beer signs. All of it. The old guy whispered, "Don't open that door." I turned and saw her standing outside the glass entrance. The woman. One hand pressed to the door. She looked human. That's what made it worse. Not decayed, not exaggerated, just wrong in all the quiet ways that mattered. Wet hair, blood along one side of her forehead, one shoulder hanging lower than it should have been. She looked like someone who had waited a very long time. Then I heard her voice, clear as if she was beside me. "You left me there." I remember saying, "I was scared." And she answered, "So was I." Then the front door unlocked by itself. I backed away. The old guy didn't move. The woman stepped inside. And this is where it stops feeling real, even to me. When she came in, I looked up at the convex security mirror in the corner of the store. Only it wasn't reflecting the store. It was reflecting the inside of a wrecked car. My car. Crushed front end, shattered windshield, dashboard lights flickering, and I was inside it. I turned around, and for 1 second, the gas station was gone.
And the keys.
I was actually in the car, slumped against the seatbelt, tasting blood. I don't know how long I'd been there. I don't know if I had crashed before I ever took that exit, or if the whole gas station thing was something my brain did while dying. All I know is the woman was standing outside the broken windshield, looking at me. Not angry, just waiting. The next morning, according to the report, a state trooper found my vehicle off the highway near mile marker 117. But here's the part that messes with me. I'm telling you this because I lived. Barely. Coma for 4 days. Broken ribs. Punctured lung. Severe concussion. And when I woke up in the hospital, the first thing I asked was whether anyone had found a gas station where I crashed. There was no gas station there. Not now. Not ever. But the nurse looked weird when I asked, because there was mud on the passenger floorboard of my car and one wet footprint on the inside of the windshield. Story 3. Something in my apartment knew what I did. 3 years ago after my divorce, I moved into an apartment in Providence, Rhode Island. I picked the place for one reason. It was forgettable. Brick building, older neighborhood, no real view, cheap rent, close enough to downtown that I could get to work in 15 minutes. I was teaching middle school English at the time and wanted a place where nobody knew me, and I didn't have to explain anything. The divorce was ugly, but that wasn't the part that kept me up at night. My ex-husband David had died 4 months before the papers were finalized. Officially, he fell down the basement stairs during an argument.
I lived there 3 years.
That was the story in the police report. And technically, it was true. What wasn't written there was that before he fell, I shoved him. Hard. I'd like to say it was self-defense. And maybe part of it was. He'd been drinking, blocking the doorway, screaming in my face, grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise. But the truth is more complicated than that. When I pushed him, I wanted him away from me. I just didn't mean for him to die. The police never charged me. There wasn't enough to prove intent. And frankly, I think everyone could tell what kind of marriage it had been. Still, I carried it. Then I moved into apartment 4C. For the first 2 weeks, nothing weird happened. I unpacked, went to work, ordered takeout, tried to act like life was becoming normal again. Then I found a note inside my bathroom cabinet. It said, "You forgot again." That was it. I assumed I'd written it myself and didn't remember. A few days later, another one appeared on the kitchen counter. That isn't why he died.
The pain is
The handwriting
overwhelming.
looked close to mine, but not
I
exactly.
can't remember what happened.
After that, the notes kept showing up. Fridge, nightstand. Inside a book I was reading. You used both hands. You were angry. He knew I didn't tell anybody, because I knew how it sounded. Then one night, around 3 a.m., the TV turned on by itself. Static. Just white noise. I got up from the couch and grabbed the remote,
Kept trying
but before I hit
to
mute,
leave.
I noticed the reflection in the screen. There was someone standing in my hallway behind me. A man. I turned around immediately. Nothing.
Could you say that?
When I looked back at the TV, the reflection was gone. The next morning I went downstairs to the building manager, Sal, and asked if anyone had access to my unit. He said no. Then I showed him one of the notes. He read it and kinda sighed. "You're in 4C?" he asked. I said yeah. He looked uncomfortable. "Some tenants say strange things about that apartment." I asked him what kind of strange things. He said, "Sounds, notes, feeling like somebody's in the hall." That answer did not help me. That night, I searched the whole apartment. Under the
All right,
bed,
watch in the rear.
inside closets, behind the shower curtain, under the sink.
Woman in white?
I was basically trying to prove to myself there wasn't a person somehow getting in and messing with me. In the bedroom closet,
You left me
behind
there.
a stack of boxes, I found a loose panel in the wall. I pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside was a little metal tin box. There were Polaroids inside. Photos of my apartment, my kitchen, my couch, my bedroom, and in almost every picture I was in frames somewhere. Sleeping, reading, standing at the sink. I nearly threw up. Then I looked at the dates written at the bottom. They were from 6 years earlier. That made no sense because I had only moved in a couple months before. Under the photos were lease papers, maintenance forms, renewal documents, all with my name on them. Same unit, apartment 4C, going back 6 years. I genuinely thought I was losing my mind at that point. I drove straight to my sister's house. When I spread everything out on her kitchen table, she got quiet in a way that scared me more than if she'd started shouting. Then she told me something I still don't fully understand. I had moved into apartment 4C 3 years earlier. Not 3 months. 3 years. Apparently after David died, I had some kind of breakdown. Panic attacks, memory issues, therapy, medication, the whole thing. According to my sister, I'd been living in that apartment the whole time, but my memory had compressed almost all of it. I remembered moving in. I remembered teaching. I remembered holidays. But the timeline was wrong. Huge pieces were just blurred. I went back to the apartment that night in a state I can't really describe. It felt like my own life had been rearranged without asking me. The second I opened the door, I smelled David's cologne. I hadn't smelled that since the day he died. I stood in the living room and said out loud, "I remember." Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. inside my apartment. Heavy, slow, familiar. They stopped just outside the bedroom, and David stepped into view. He looked almost exactly normal, except for the right side of his head, which was caved in above the temple. He was wearing one of his work shirts, blue button down, sleeves rolled. He looked
Mother
annoyed more
always
than
ordered
dead,
2 coffees.
and that was somehow the worst part. He said, "You kept trying to leave." I don't know whether that was a ghost, my brain, trauma, guilt, or some combination of all three. I really don't, but I know I saw him, and I know what came back to me in that moment. Not just the stairs, everything before them. Years of being cornered, belittled, controlled, threatened. Years of that feeling that every room in your own house belongs more to someone else than to you. And the night he died, when he said, "You'll never get rid of me," I believed him. That's why I pushed. Not just to get free for a second, to end something. When he took a step toward me in that hallway,
You're kidding
I felt
me.
that
He
same
actually
old
said
panic
that right
hit
to
for
her
about
face.
half a second.
No, I almost
Then it
spilled my
didn't.
coffee. It was
I
the
picked up the
funniest
metal
thing.
tin from the coffee table and threw it straight at the hallway mirror. The glass shattered. Every light in the apartment went out instantly. There was this loud cracking sound inside the walls, like pressure releasing through pipes. And then, silence. When the emergency light from the alley came through the window, the hallway was empty. No David, no footsteps, no smell of cologne. The note stopped after that. Completely. I moved out 4 months later. This time I remembered packing. I remembered signing the lease on a new place. I remembered every box I carried out. I still don't know if that apartment was haunted, or if my mind finally forced me to face something I'd spent years trying not to name. But I do know this. Sometimes, late at night, I'll walk past a mirror and catch myself checking the reflection to make sure it matches. Because once you've seen someone standing behind you who shouldn't exist anymore, that habit doesn't really go away.